Yes, on behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight at 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. We're going to have stand and have the pledge and have a moment of silence, but I would like to remember, for us all to remember during our moment of silence, Lisa Chumley, Sheriff Chumley's wife at this time. And just remember her, she's had some issues the last few couple of months. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated, please.
Amen.
I would like to recognize Dr. Fee, Commissioner Dr. Fee, Mr. Chauffeur, Mr. Copeland, and Mr. Turner tonight. Thank you all for being here, like Commissioner, County Commissioner. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Motion by Mr. Davidson, second by Mr. McCarthy. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passed. Are there any additions to the agenda? Okay, I don't see any additions. The next item is our consent agenda. We have a couple of additional field trips, and we'll have an additional annual verification form from Crestview Elementary just to be added into that. If there's no objection, we'll go ahead and add those. They've been signed off on and okayed by everyone that supposed to okay. Do we have a motion? Would anyone like to move any item out of the consent agenda for discussion? Do we have a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Clark, second by Mr. Vincent. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, no. Motion passed. Dr. Byrd, Director of Instruction Report.
Our summer learning camps began this week in elementary and middle schools. Students are going to attend 2 weeks in June, 2 weeks in July. Told you a little bit about that last month, but we have over 1,000 students who are currently attending. Excited about that and about the opportunity to help address learning loss for our students this summer. TOSS has provided some information regarding the recently passed K-12 cleanup and CRT legislation, as well as the Textbook Transparency Act that we shared with our principals yesterday at principals meeting. Dr. Combs has reached out multiple times to the TDOE for updates on when we're going to receive some guidance on those two bills. And this week, he did receive a response from the Commissioner's Office. Victoria Robertson, who is the Director of Communications for the TDOE, says the department is currently working on the process for implementing the law and guidance to school districts on compliance with the law. We will share it publicly when it is ready. And then we did receive some information today that we will be getting that guidance by August the 1st. So we're expecting that in the coming weeks. In compliance, just to make the board aware, with the Textbook Transparency Act, textbook publishers of materials approved by the state board for local adoption are required to provide each LEA with a link to the textbooks or instructional materials that the public can use to access these materials. And so to act preemptively, about 3 weeks ago, we went ahead and reached out to our publishers and requested those links so that we could get them on our webpage just as soon as possible. We will take care of that as soon as we get those links from our publishers. And then the last item I have, of course, a little shorter tonight than it was last week, but the last item that I have concerns the ESEA budget that I believe you have a copy in your folder. And I'd like to recommend to the board a motion to approve the local consolidated application for federal funding and all other federal funds for fiscal year 2022, and authorize the Director of Schools to make any necessary budget revisions, addenda amendments, or transfer requests as needed. Just to make you aware, there were no positions cut, in case someone had that question. Title II, we did hire the math coach that you guys approved in May. And Title IV, we have been approved for the additional social worker that you also approved in May. But I am asking for a motion to approve that.
You've heard the motion, motion by Mr. Shipley, second by Mr. McCarthy. Is there any questions or discussion? Those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passed.
That's all I have, unless somebody has a question.
Anybody have any questions?
I have one.
Sure.
Is there any possibility that we may have to replace some textbooks?
We're waiting on that guidance from TDOE. So we're not sure.
Okay.
We'll let you know.
Just to be clear, the parents had access to the curriculum through the app, right? Through the Clever app? Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Dr. Bird. Dr. Fisher, Director of Operations.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just wanted to update you on two things, and then I have some other individuals that are under my report tonight. Summer feeding has been going on. We've been in full swing since June the 1st, and I really want to applaud our cafeteria staff and bus drivers that have been preparing and delivering meals throughout our local communities, as well as meals that are being served at our schools during summer school. Our parents are able to stop by and pick up meals from our school locations, Covington High School, Brighton Elementary, Munford Elementary, Drummond's Elementary, and also P Elementary. Those are prep sites for the summer feeding. But we're also very appreciative for not just the food service workers and bus drivers, but we've reached out to teacher assistants as well that have been interested in helping us throughout the summer to serve meals. So we are all hands on deck to prepare meals for our students, for feeding our children during the summer months. Also, and that is for any student, any child in our school district, in our county. We are definitely still in need of bus drivers. Mr. Jeff Morris has made a commercial advertising the need for drivers. If any of you, especially those of you in the audience, you know someone that wants to drive a bus, we would love to have you. We definitely have a need. And we are also advertising on our buses as well. And so if you know of anyone, please share that information for us. There's definitely a shortage. And we will support those individuals through the application process. So just to make you aware of that. As the summer is upon us, our maintenance department is going through and doing what we do during the summer to maintain our buildings and to prepare them for the opening of school in the fall, in the midst of what's going on with summer school. So it's a little bit difficult this summer trying to get everything done, but we're going to accomplish that goal before we open the doors in August. I would like to present Mr. Hunter Bennett as he comes forward as our new capital projects manager. He's going to give you a roofing update, and he will be followed by Dr. Combs to discuss our future projects, and we
Ms.
appreciate that.
Ms.
Yes, sir. Question?
One of our bus drivers mentioned to me, we were talking about the hire thing.
Yeah.
And he mentioned maybe if we went to a 11-month instead of a 10-month payment for bus drivers, that maybe that would be an incentive for more people to run the bus.
Might be something for us to consider. We'd have to look at that.
Yeah,
That would
of course it'd
possibly
be a
decrease, yeah. We'd have to look at that, because we run a 10-month schedule,
I just
so
thought I'd throw it out
it
there.
might be a decrease in pay, but that would be, yes, so we can look
That
at
might
that.
be an incentive.
Okay, yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Fisher.
You're welcome. I'll take that note. 11 months.
They still get a 24 pay option.
Yes,
Bus
absolutely.
driver.
Yeah, that's
No, not the bus driver,
not the bus drivers?
No?
not bus driver.
Okay.
Mr. Morris mentioned
Because
that we needed,
they only work on the days the children are there. That's the difference.
Well, teachers get a 24 pay option.
Yes.
So that may be, if that's what you're referring to, spread the money out throughout the year.
It would just decrease.
10 months getting paid 12 months.
Yeah, it would just be a smaller check.
And
Yeah,
of course, we have how many, like, we have some summer school drivers,
right.
not enough, but we have some.
We do have summer school drivers. We have like 40 this summer.
Mr. Morris mentioned that we needed around 35 to 40 drivers. That's how short we are.
Absolutely.
That's pretty dramatic.
But we are not any different from a lot of other
Right.
school systems throughout the state with the large numbers that we drive.
Right.
Dr. Fisher,
Yes, sir.
with the increase of summer learning, Is your feeding program ahead number-wise this summer than compared to past summers?
It is, because we are also with the students that are actually attending every day, that's additional students that are in the buildings,
Right.
as well as we are going throughout the community, because our buses are driving into some of the communities and delivering meals. I'll give you an example, at Covington High one day this week, they served 900 meals. Those were students that actually, some were in the building, but those were parents that actually came through the drive-through. So that's the option that any parent has within the county, is to drive through one of those actual sites, and they can pick up meals for children. Mr. Bennett?
Hello, guys.
How you doing?
Thank you guys for this opportunity. Been a lot going on, obviously a lot more ahead of us. Currently, the projects that have been completed, the Drummond's kindergarten wing, the Brighton Elementary 300 wing, the Covington High School gym lobby. The projects that we currently have, that are currently live, Brighton High School, the Covington High School band and locker room, which if you're direct over here, there's the 300 wing that has been completed. I'm not sure if you're taking the field trip to the top of the school, but fast approved. And I'm gonna say, this one here is the actually one that's in progress. If we can catch a break in this rain, maybe they get this wrapped up here this coming week. Brighton High School, again, hopefully this one will be finished up this coming week as well. And another one from Brighton High School. The
What
ones
is
that
that
we
over at Brighton? Is that over the lobby? What part is not
So-
got a pitch roof?
The lobby area and over the concession area, all the parts that used to leak horribly. But mainly that big lobby area is what's going on.
And so the ones that we currently have next in line will be the Mumford High School. That material it'll start being delivered this coming Monday. Crestview Elementary, we've already started the delivery of the material. More will be scheduled for tomorrow. And then Mumford Elementary's material is scheduled to begin on the 16th. So those projects will be well underway, and a lot of movement going on with those, and hopefully getting a lot of these problems covered, so then we can move forward, taking care of the interior issues.
How's it coming at Brighton High School with the renovation of the floor? Have you gotten into that yet?
I have, Dr. Combs has primarily been taking care of that flood problem that they had.
Yeah.
I was there today, and they are definitely staffed well to keep that progress moving.
What are we doing? Are we staining those floors, or,
Yes.
and then we're gonna put a sealer over the top of that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I think right now, they're giving us 3 samples, like either like a gray, charcoal gray, or a black. And they're gonna put some samples down and let Dr. Norton and his crew and some of us look at it and see, and pick one, and then they'll stain it and seal it. Right now, it's mostly demo and getting ready for that
You and
process.
Dr. Norton, you gonna be doing that again, so you weren't present?
That depends on if he invites me or not, but yeah, we'll be there.
You sent out a report the other day, I got
I
one.
did. We sent one from Service Master.
Yeah.
I do want to say this too. Ben's been doing a great job, man. I'll tell you what, it's been really nice. Take a breath, and he's been walking those roofs and he gives me updates every day. He's really doing a good job. We appreciate that,
It's
Hunter.
exciting. I will tell you guys, there's a lot of work to be done on these roads, and hopefully, once we get these addressed, we can keep the teachers focused on the kids, and not moving buckets of water around.
Amen.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. We're glad
Thank you, I
you're here.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hunter. Dr. Combs?
Yes, sir. All right, y'all. So, I'm gonna go through with this here in just a minute, but I do want to say a special thank you to our high school principals and our ag teachers for being here tonight. I need them to check and make sure that I present their projects appropriately. Because when you see these one-pagers that I'll give you in a minute that Dr. Bertrand has PowerPoint for us, you'll see that each of our ag teams from each of the schools really did a lot of work to put those things together to show the projects that they're interested in. First of all, what I'm gonna ask is I just wanna request that the board allow me to move forward with the following timeline. All right, I figured it'd be a lot easier to give you a timeline, let you kind of look at the vision and see what we're talking about, make a recommendation for approval of that timeline, And then, I will ask Ms. Peggy to talk later on if there are any specifics about how we're gonna pull that funding at that time, that, she can do that during her report if you have questions about that. But this way, it spreads all of it out over the next year, instead of just asking for one big amount, it spreads that out. Plus, you'll see that it makes sense when you go through this. So July, we need to do a geotech survey to determine soil composition for turf-based preparation. It's gonna be about 30 grand per high school. The same company, right now that I'm talking to about the turf would do that. And they come in and they take core samples just to make sure that they have everything underneath that turf set up correctly. And that will be done now, and that's already in our budget. We can use current budget money to do that. And then July through September, football stadium light upgrades, $479,839 total is the estimate that I was given, 21 to 22 budget. And then July through September, soccer stadium light installations. The reason that number is so huge is because we don't have poles already. There are no lights currently on the soccer field. So that includes poles and the LED lighting, and then the source is from the 21-22 budget again. And that would be what we currently have. And the reason, obviously, that I put those two first is because those are fall sports, right? So we can go ahead and start working on those and getting those done and having those ready, even though it may overlap a little bit. They said that it's probably gonna take between 3 and 4 days to do the football stadium light upgrades per field. So it's actually quicker than I thought it would. And then July through November, ag building project, Brighton High School, $350,000. Ag building project, Covington High School, $350,000. Ag building project at Mumford High, $350,000, which I'll go over all those in just a second. Basically, I said, look, here's an amount of money that I'm gonna ask for, to be used from fund balance. What kind of plan can y'all put together to improve the ag programs at each one of the schools? And I'm gonna ask Mr. Harvey here in just a second to come up and talk about the ag programs. So our ag programs are just state recognized, and I'm sure it'll be really hard for him to find some good things to say about the ag programs. But they're just great. Our kids, we have kids transfer in to come to our ag programs and see what's going on there. So, it only makes sense to improve that as an educational piece. And then November through March, turf installation, Brighton High, Covington High, Mumford High. That'll be about $3 million total. And of course, that would be an ask from fund balance. Again, November through March, the reason I'm asking that, we would start after football season. There's no need to even try to do it now. It wouldn't be ready in time. Plus, there's just too many other things going on. But after season, that would be a good time to do it. And then December through February, we do softball and baseball stadium light upgrades. You can see the totals there for those. Munford and Covington softball fields both need a little bit of work other than just lighting. So we're gonna look at those as well, and see if we can help with fencing and even scooching those dugouts down a little bit. I don't know in the past how spectators have even watched the softball games, because the dugouts are like on home plate. So I don't even understand how that works. So we're gonna look at moving those down and adjusting the fence before we put the lighting up. And then of course, May and July, track resurfacing at all 3 high schools. And it would be that turfus type track at all 3 schools. And it'd be about $384,000 total. Obviously, we do that lastly because we don't want folks driving back and forth over the track. You remember that, Mr. Shipley? Driving back and forth over the track while they're doing the turf or whatever it is they're doing out there, just tearing up the turf. So we'll do that. The turf has about a 5-year warranty. Of course, you can upgrade it, but right now I've just priced the cheapest for those, and it'll make all the tracks new. It'll be red or black, depending on which color they want, unless we go a higher grade color, like Bartlett. All right. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Will that surface qualify for competition?
Yes, sir, it will. Well, it will at Brighton's, because Brighton's track is a regulation track.
Right.
The other 2 schools will have a regulation surface, but of course, the length of the track is not regulation. But they will be practicing on the exact same surface that they would be participating in a meet.
And very much safer.
Absolutely, yes, sir, and cooler, yes, sir. So these are the 3 projects that the ag teachers have put together with their principals to show tonight for how they'd spend their $350,000. Cardinal Farms, Brighton High School, agritourism, $80,000. Cardinal Farms Food Lab Distribution Center, and there are a number of pictures up here, including some sky view pictures that were taken with the drone, which is actually also one of the classes that I believe Mr. Johnson instructs. and we'll do. 125,000 farm equipment and supplies, 45,000 for a 30 by 60 greenhouse, 12,000 equipment barn, farmer's market, hayride trailer, pavilion with restrooms, and the pavilion with restrooms would be across the street where the pumpkin patch, and you can see it there in that second slide, where all those things are. That way, when we have all those kids that come over and do the pumpkin, search for the pumpkins and do all that kind of stuff, there's something over there with some bathrooms in it. So that's how they have discussed to spend their $350,000. Also, y'all, I put in your packets, you have all of these, plus you have supporting documentation to the lighting and all the other stuff that I gave you. And of course, when we get into asking more things later, we'll give more of that, so you can see all those things with the bids and everything else. This is just the timeline. And then charger station area requirements, they have a 100 foot by 60 foot barn, and then 5 acres of pasture research growth projects, $45,000 for a fence, distribution room, the sliding doors. I'll let you read all the rest of that. This whole piece would be located, is that on here? It's not. This whole piece would be located over by the baseball field in Covington. Right, actually, the back corner, right, the back corner back there, where that would be. Right behind Mr. Simonson's house, so he can smell the goats. So we haven't told him. We might want to bring that up. Yeah.
And we have a master plan on that property as far as how everything would potentially lay out if everything did move over there.
We're actually working on that now, so that we can see that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Actually, he sent me some drone footage that I'm gonna send to y'all that has the baseball field on it, and then it kind of zooms out and shows you the whole piece of property and where that is right now.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a batting cage back behind whoever's property that is. McCullough, is that whose property that is behind there? Somebody's put a batting cage in there, and it's not on the property adjacent, which I didn't know until I saw his drone footage today. So.
Yeah.
But I'll send that all to you too.
Okay.
So you can see
Yeah, I just want to make sure where we put it's not going to be in the way of a potential future construction.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then the second half of that, the charger station, Covington High Agriculture Remote Guided Educational Research Station, mouthful, is a necessity on many levels. And then it talks about how many things that can be done to grow that FFA program. These are things that are definitely going to be needed right now, if I'm not mistaken. Most of the animals that they have for their FFA program are stored in different people's houses. We're not in their houses, but out there. I hope they're not in their houses. Okay. Out at their land and not stored on school property. So that would be nice too. And then the veterinary and animal science, food science, horticulture science, engineering pathways, all that. Bees, sweet potatoes, be the good place to go. Farmers Market may end up going down there. And then this last one is Farm Fresh Munford High School. This is their plan, and you can see over there on the right, hydroponic greenhouse. Anybody here ever had hydroponic lettuce from Munford?
Yeah.
It's
Very solid gift basket.
So that's one of the things we're talking about with our new food services supervisor, is trying to figure out a way that we can use some of the produce that we're growing in our own cafeterias. So, we're looking at that as well. Culinary prep, marketing, distribution center, all that kind of stuff there. This will all be located back behind Munford High School. And then marketing and distribution, you can see some examples of what those would look like. Environmentally controlled area, drop-down screen and projector, storage area, and then culinary prep area requirements. You can see those, commercial freezers, refrigerators, ovens, vacuum sealer, burner stove, all that kind of stuff. And then greenhouse requirements under that. Polycarbonate greenhouse, 8-foot sidewalls, concrete floor, exhaust fans, all that kind of good stuff. So each one, when I asked each one of the 3 high schools to step up and said, look, here's what, if we can get $350,000, and if the board can approve it and the commission approves it, then give me what you'd like to make our ag programs even better than they already are. And when I did that, they jumped in there and rose to the occasion. I mean, these are really, really good plans. And there's a ton of documentation with all this too. They condensed it all to a 1-pager for me for tonight. And it was hard, wasn't it? I saw some mean looks when I asked them to put it all on 1 page, because they really did a lot of research to get to the point that they are right now. And I will continue to supply each of you with documentation that discusses the efficiency of the new lighting, the educational benefit of new ag projects, the low maintenance and cost benefit of turf. But I just want to let you know that none of this is my main motivation for asking. None of that. The reason I'm asking, I want all these things, is for our kids. Because our kids deserve the best. Our kids are fantastic in this county. They compete on a state level, both athletically, with their ag programs, CTE, academically, they compete, and our kids deserve it. When they go to Bartlett and see all the things that they have in Arlington and Collierville and Cordova and Dyersburg City, our kids can have all that. We have the money to do that, and our kids deserve it. I think I put our kids up against anything that Tennessee has to offer. We have great students here. So I do want to recommend this timeline, but before I do that, I'm going to jump to this one first, and then I'm going to go back. These are just middle school athletics, and these are the things that our middle school kids have done in athletics. You can look down that list. Conference champions, girls track, boys track, softball, boys soccer, girls football, volleyball, baseball, tennis, basketball, girls basketball. That's middle school. Those are the things that our kids have done athletically. And then high school, you just keep going through the list. I mean, our kids compete on a state level, sometimes on a national level. And they deserve the best. And so that's why I'm asking for this. Now, I will say, this one I'm gonna need Mr. Harvey's help. You come up here and help with Mr. Harvey. I know he doesn't like to talk in front of people.
I'm gonna say this, I lost one of my hearing aids last week, and if you got any questions, you need to talk loud. I'm really upset about that. I really am upset about the cost of them. All right, what's that?
Oh, you're talking about that.
Okay.
I read the awards and stuff.
I really did. I can stand this way and you'll probably hear better. For those of you who don't know what career technical education used to be, back in the old days, in the 70s and 80s, it was called vocational education. Then, I'd say about 25 years ago, they tried to upgrade a little bit with technology, and it was called vocational technical. They moved it up a little bit. So they didn't like the stigma years ago, about 12, 13 years ago, and dropped the whole vocational part of it and went to career technical education. So we encompass now health science is in there. We got top 10 program in the nation in health science. Ag, of course, is in top in the state of Tennessee. Tipton County is the top health science programs, data proven, in health science and ag. And of course, we've got more teachers, so that doesn't mean that marketing's not have a good program, or business doesn't have a good program, or digital imaging and design doesn't have a good program, or family consumer doesn't have a good program. But we've got more teachers in these two areas, and so I'm hitting on my other areas too. I'm not going to let anybody think I'm not talking about just ag, because I'm not. In fact, my wife's two of her favorite students in health science years ago were Miss Kathy's daughters back here, who are both very successful now. One's a nurse practitioner, and the other one is a ICU surgical nurse in Memphis. And of course, Charlotte and I were talking back earlier too. I know a lot of you folks on the back row. We were talking about, Charlotte said, how much longer are you going to work? You still working? And I said, yeah, I still am. And that's like I told you, my dad said, if you're healthy, you need to probably keep working. Charlotte's, I went to high school together. Husband played football with me in high school and all. So I know a lot of you on the back row. But we got the best programs, and I was joking with Dr. Combs about coming back for 2 more years if you help me out with some things, and I really didn't know if he would do that or not, but he did. And so I'm glad he did. But Steve Clark, taught ag up here, of course, Mr. Shipley knows all about the programs being at Brighton High, but we have by far the best CTE program in West Tennessee, data proven. I can show you that on competitions. And we send more kids to state. But ag is one that we really needed some help in. Ted Turner, some of you may know Mr. Turner, he taught ag at Covington for years. And we've been keeping animals out of his place for about 15 years. And if you don't know, he's got a pheasant preserve right there. So he shoots right there all the time. So that's not very conducive for that. And they have to drive out there and back and forth. So that's really not helped as much. And I believe some of the worst cursings I've ever received is when we moved the animals about 15 years ago, at Covington High, on the campus, right there beside up from the football field, that vacant lot where we used to practice football when I was up there. And, I believe that's some of the bad. The smell wasn't very good. So Covington has been at a very big disadvantage. They just have been, over the years. In Brighton, well, we've gotten, a lot of good things out of Brighton and Munford, of course, we're in better places. But this whole project now, and I've got to say, Jeff Huffman, I went and talked to Jeff Huffman about this, and, he said, we'd be glad to help you all about 12, 13 acre swing over there for Brighton. Covington, of course, going out by the baseball field. I used to quail hunt, we were talking about it earlier. I used to quail hunt out over there where they're actually gonna put this barn, no quail anymore, so I quit doing that when they built TCI, had to quit, the church had to quit anyway out there. So, we got that there, but Munford has got a great spot. Man, we looked at that with Courtney down there one day, and so, we have great CTE programs. Ag is certainly one of the top that we have, but I can tell you right now, the teachers don't understand. They are asking for more work now than they've ever asked for, because there's gonna be a ton of work in this, ton of work.
Well, Mr. Harvey.
And they already work all the time.
All these
Let me
investments.
stand very close to you, Steve.
All these investments are gonna generate revenue for their programs, right?
Right, but not only do that, I'll tell you what it's gonna do. And I bet people, and there's some money on this, gonna bet me. It's gonna generate students in Tipton County schools. This is gonna generate some students. I've already had 3 people that have asked me about this. And I talk to a lot of people, know a lot of people. So, this is good for everybody, but we want student benefits, that's all we're after. I heard that from Tim Pike, from Buddy Bibb, and Hyde Williams, and John. Student benefit, that's what we want in Tipton County schools. And that's what we're after here, so I don't know what else you're gonna be, I can talk all day, you'll do it. But if you give me a chance to talk about my program, I'm gonna talk to you about it, and I'll say this, if it wasn't for this man right here, I wouldn't be up here talking right now. He's the one that said, I can give you some money or offer to give you some if your people come up with some things like this, and they did. And so I appreciate that, and I gotta say something positive. Dr. Bird, the only person I've ever worked with in all the 38 years I've been vocational CT director that has come to me as an instructional supervisor over 9-12 and said, I want to go to the schools and meet all your teachers and see what they do. That meant a lot to my teachers for that. And then she did it again this year. Did it 2 years ago, did it again this year. So that's what my teachers appreciate that. When you come by and show interest in them, they just do. So anyway, I'm gonna sit down. If you got questions, I love talking when you get through. I haven't seen it in a while.
Harvey was I think Rebecca was looking for some chickens.
With some lettuce, that's right. But, basically, so, I just wanna recommend this timeline. I'm not coming right now, thanks for listening. I'm not coming right now asking for money right now. That's not, we'll do that like as per that timeline. I just want to present that timeline to you, show you what I'm thinking, for y'all to approve that timeline. If you like the way that that's laid out and what we're thinking over the course of this next year, that I would love to have that recommendation from you. And then, like I said, if you have any further questions about the funding piece, when Ms. Peggy comes up here, she would maybe address that for me if you have questions.
I had just one question.
Yes, sir.
Remember a couple of years ago, we were talking about getting a junior ROTC program in the county? The Army had expressed interest and so forth. And I don't know if we follow through, followed up on that or whatever, and how this federal grant money would affect that if we continue going that route.
The federal grant money is a good idea, actually. We haven't tried that route yet. We tried Navy ROTC, I told you all about that, and they said, no, we only have a certain number of programs, we're not doing it. Marine Corps was the same. Then Army had some offering, they said that they would do it, and there was a pretty hefty price tag to it, but Mr. Macklin had been researching that. And so
We're on a waiting list.
I don't know how long the wait is for a waiting list, but I do know that they do have us on the list. I actually spoke with Mr. Easton today, who is taking my spot as I move down the hall, and he's got a connection at Fort Campbell this time in Montgomery County. He said he may be able to expedite it, hopefully.
And that was Army, right?
I believe so.
Okay. Yep. And it's in our strategic plan, so we definitely
Yeah.
keep it on the front burner.
Yeah, we need to stick with that strategic plan for sure.
Yes, sir.
We've heard, Dr. Cohn's request. Do we have a motion to, grant this request?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Clark, second by Mr. Vincent. Are there any questions or is there any discussion? Those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, no. Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cohn. That's a great plan, man.
Thank you.
Good timeline. Ms. Peggy Murdoch, financial report. Ms. Peggy,
Good evening.
before you get started, this is officially Ms. Peggy's last financial report. And hey, she's retired from here. Well, she's moving on out the house.
She's retired to go to work.
But we want to wish you well in your retirement and thank you for the many years you've been here and the excellent job that you've done. So we don't worry about our budget, we don't worry about our numbers when Ms. Peggy's doing it. So.
I appreciate it.
Mr. Billy, you got some big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
No pressure.
She don't look like she got on big shoes, but she carries big shoes.
All right, so do you have any questions about the projected timeline that Dr. Combs presented? Obviously, we won't ask for all of the money at one time. We'll ask it in chunks as we can spend it. The worst thing that the thing we don't want to do is to get the money out of fund balance and then turn around, not have it finished when the year is end and have to give it right back to fund balance. So
For
we'll
the sake
be
of,
very wise about that.
for the sake of everyone here, can you give us just a real brief explanation of how money gets into the fund balance and just go through that?
How many gets into the, okay.
So that folks understand how these projects are being funded.
Yes. So in our budget every year, obviously, we have a fund balance currently. Over $20 million.
Which is money that the school system put back.
Well, we didn't spend it.
Right.
Consequently, when we don't spend it, it builds in the fund balance.
Right.
And so every year, our projected budget is $100+ million. And obviously, you're not going to be able to spend every penny because you've got lines that just won't be met. You have a certain number of teachers, one of those teachers drops out in the middle of the year, you have to put a sub in, those dollars are not gonna be the same. Projects that you thought you could do, the money is there to do it, but then it falls through because the items can't be purchased. Any number of things happen. And when your revenues exceed your expenditures, every dollar that is over your expenditures adds to the fund balance, year after year after year after year. And it has always been our pride, I guess, to have a healthy fund balance. It's always been a good thing. The people in Tipton County, at the Finance Committee and the commissioners appreciate having a healthy fund balance. And so it has gotten very healthy, and we have decided it's time to use some of that money instead of always having it in the
And that
fund
money
balance.
can only be spent for educational purposes, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm just
It
making
has to
sure
be,
we're
yeah.
all, or everybody's on the same.
Everything that's on your budget, those line items that are on your budget, and we can't go out there and fill up.
Well, I just don't want somebody to say, well, y'all could have paved the road or something
We
like
cannot
that.
You
pay.
can't take education
I hope
money and
nobody
pay the
ever
road.
thinks that we could pay the road. We cannot pay the road.
I'm not one that did. I want to make sure everybody
No, we cannot do that. It has to
understands
be
that.
within the scope
Right.
of our instructional, everything that we do has to be uploaded into the state website. The State Department approves our budget before we even get it to the county commission. They have to approve everything that's in there. If it's not in 170, the 7-1100, all the way to 76-100, it can't be spent. And those line items
inside of our budget are peculiar to education. They have nothing to do with anything else. Every single line item that we have, and the line items that we get come from the chart of accounts that comes from the State Department. So it's not like you can, I mean, we do 7, 11, 71, 200, all those 7. Well, other departments have 4s, other departments have 3s, other departments have 6s, other departments have 1s. Those aren't our numbers. We can't use those numbers.
So, last thing I'm gonna say, but just so everybody knows, that this money that we're projecting to spend on the timeline that Dr. Combs just presented, if it's not spent on child benefit, it just sits there. It does nobody any good.
Correct.
Would you explain the amount that the county puts in our budget each year, the percentage that Tipton County puts in our school budget? What percent is it, roughly? Pretty close.
It's about $20 million.
Yeah.
So 20 out of 100,000,
Right,
so.
okay, I got you. Yeah.
Ms. Peggy, we had to have a pretty good fund balance, state requirement, is that correct?
That is quasi-correct, yes, sir, about 3%. And if you think about the money that we spend each month when we do our financial statements, we generally spend $7 million every single month on instructional supplies, teaching supplies, paying our personnel, the school buses, the maintenance department, the roofs, the lighting, everything that has to happen inside of a schoolhouse, the utilities, all of those things have to be paid out of our money. So $7 million, it's recommended that we have 3 months worth of dollars in our fund balance, just in case something were to happen.
Right.
And you know, we do have to keep that fund balance because the state provides our VEP, which is the bulk of our money, obviously. And they do it in 10 payments, not 12. So there are 2 months that you're without money. So May, we get no BEP, and July, we get no BEP. So that's $6.2 million each of those 2 months that we don't get any money. So you have to have something, just in case. We've not ever had to go into fund balance for poor planning. We've gone into fund balance to purchase on purpose things that need to be purchased. We haven't even gone into the fund balance that I'm ever aware of, even to buy buses, which is permissible.
Yeah.
We have scraped and moved dollars from here and there and over and to buy the buses.
Right.
So, we are fiscally responsible.
Exactly.
And we use the money for, once again, the state has to approve. The State Board of Education approves our budget. And they approve all of our amendments. It isn't like we can just randomly say, and I know you didn't ask that because you.
No, ma'am, I just wanna make sure everybody understands, that's all I'm after.
I do,
And I do
yes.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
yes.
You gave a very
It's-
good, thorough answer.
Thank you.
Not to put you on the spot for the
That's
last meeting, but hey, why not go out with a bang?
Go out with a bang, there you go. But if there's anything else, I'll be happy to clarify it a little bit that I do know, I'll be happy to share, but.
No, ma'am, that was adequate, and I appreciate it.
As you can, you know from what we've done as a group together, I haven't done anything, we've done it all together. And we have been fiscally responsible. You know, everybody's not gonna agree with every little thing that we do, but overarchingly, we are trying to do the best we can for the students that we serve.
We want every dollar to be spent to benefit a child.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes.
At the end of the day, it's all about the child.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
So, as these projects go, Dr. Combs has his projected outline and timeline. Obviously, when you get into December, the stuff may not be there. He may not be ready, but if it isn't, he'll push it down and we'll go with the money that we have as we go. So, I think it's a well thought out plan. So, but if you have any other questions about the plan, we have to answer. No, sir.
I'm gonna leave you alone.
Thank you. Are you trying to get back at me or something?
No, ma'am.
worked together before.
I do.
All right, so I have two things for you. One is now that I've told you all that I know, I'm going to tell you about my error. So I made an error in the new budget for the 21-22 budget. If you look on that single sheet, I didn't print the 12-page document, I just printed the single sheet. And it's in a paper clipped, that's it. This thing right here. That's it. So on the second line, the first document that I gave you had 6,900 for 7/11/117, and it's supposed to be 69,000. My finger didn't get the last zero, so I corrected that and put 69,000 in there, and I got that from 7/11/116. But actually, I was reading the budget to the Tipton County Finance Committee, and I saw that and nearly had a heart attack right there in front of them. Didn't say a word, just kept on going down the line and called WT the next day. He's already fixed it at the county budget, so they'll get the correct number. So I just need you to approve that correction.
Do we have a motion to approve the error, the correction?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Davidson, second by Mr. Shipley. Are there any questions about it? I think it's. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passed.
Thank you. All right, and the other piece of paper that's clipped with my budget piece is we're asking you to approve a bid that was put out for the technology department. Certainly, I can read what's on there, but as far as understanding it, I have absolutely no idea what it is. Wherever Christie, Kevin and Melissa are, I have no idea what it is, but this is what it is. They bid out a single digital integration solution, and they had 5 different respondents. The Sargent Laboratories, which is Aristotle K-12, was $65,360.31. Howard Education, $47,620. Howard Education Lightspeed, $55,200. CDWG Lightspeed, $67,800. And Go Guardian, $30,600. So there's a wide range, but they are asking for your approval of the bid from Aristotle K-12 from Sargent Laboratories. And the reason that they want to go with the one that has an additional cost factor is because it has Geo Tracking abilities so that they can pinpoint any missing devices wherever those devices may be, which will really be a benefit. So they're asking that you will approve that bid for $65,360.31. 65,000, I'm sorry.
There goes the turn. There goes my timeline.
Hey, can you give us real quick, what is it?
It's just basically a software system on those that keeps the kids safe and everything else on it, filter, but the geo tracking thing's a big deal.
It goes on every single computer that we just bought to go one-to-one.
Correct. Isn't that right, Ms. Melissa? I'll let you
Right,
say
it
it for
allows
someone
the
else.
teacher to see the students' screens and can see exactly what they're on. They can lock them down to one particular website or let them do different websites and monitor from their desk to see exactly what the students are doing. The geo tracking allows us to pinpoint the devices to a single building instead of just an area. And that allows us, if somebody ends up missing, we can go find it. And it just allows the teachers a lot of flexibility so that they can control their classroom with all the devices.
Okay. We've heard the request. Do we have a motion to grant this request?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Farrell, second by Ms. Rosdale. Are there any questions about it? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion passed.
Thank you.
So thank you, Ms. Peggy.
Thank you, Ms. Peggy, and I apologize.
It's all
The next item we have is consideration of our superintendent, Dr. Combs, his compensation. Dr. Combs' contract says that based upon a successful evaluation, he can either have a pay raise or a bonus. Well, Dr. Combs has scored a 4.84 out of a possible 5 on his evaluation. Not this year, this past year, but every year he has had high scoring evaluations for the last 3 years. I've talked to Dr. Combs the last 3 years, and he's turned down a bonus each time we take any extra funds for anything. And we had 2 bonuses this year for all of our teachers that Dr. Combs didn't take. And so he's turned it down, but I'm saying that we need to pay Dr. Combs a $5,000 bonus. And I think that's fair. I've talked to our attorney, and Dr. Combs has talked with, we all have talked with our attorney, and this is what we've decided on, Dr. Combs. And I make a motion that we pay him $5,000, and it's more to come. I'll have more to say after we do this motion, okay? Do we have a second for motion? Second by Mr. Shipley. Are there any questions about it yet?
I got a question. Is he gonna take it?
Yeah, he's gonna take it. Yeah.
All right.
But I'm gonna tell you what he's gonna do with it after we. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, no. Motion passed. I've discussed with Dr. Combs about this, and he's agreed to accept with the condition that he is allowed to create a Tipton County School Scholarship Fund with this money to award to our future seniors, one from each of the 3 high schools, and for the foreseeable future. So it'll be $1,000, right? $1,000 scholarship for Brighton High School, Mumford High School, and President High School. That's what he's giving back. I mean, he's getting it, but he's giving back. So we appreciate all you do, Dr. Combs, and hey, thank you for the job well done, and we're glad to have you. We want to keep you too. So
I appreciate that. Thank you for the good evaluation.
Thank you. Make it more. Can we amend that, make it more, do what's going?
Does anyone else have any other business? Do we have a motion to adjourn?